Uh, Good morning in my case. I'm going to go through your guys' sustained investigation, proposal, presentations. I'm going to try and be as quick and concise as possible. I've just woken up and scared the dog, so that's probably going to start barking at us. But, yep, there we go. Um, I'm going to go through everyone's. I would encourage you to listen through the whole video. It's probably going to take a minute or two. If you only want to listen to yours, that's fine, but you're going to be able to get things from me talking about everyone else just as much as me talking about yours, frankly. So let's get started. Grace is first here. Um, Grace, you've got all kinds of stuff for your visual inspiration, writing inspiration. This is all good. The things I'm really going to be looking for are what questions you're going to lean towards, and then also your past work and what direction you look moving forward to, far as your photos. So the good news for you, Grace, is that your existing work is actually pretty cohesive, and it's good. Those are two really good things to have. Visually they all tie together really well. I think conceptually you can make them tie together pretty well. Looking at your questions, uh, the first two stand out to me as possibly relating to your style and existing work the most. If you have personal interest or relevance to the first two, that's how I would lean. Your images look very kind of futuristic looking, very, um, I don't know, inanimate. So AI and social media and social influence, I think relate to your existing work. Uh, and this applies to everyone in that you don't have to do the work that you've been doing. You could do it in a totally new direction. But if you've been successful with a certain style or genre of work in the past, again, you could change it or you could make things easy on yourself and go in the direction that you have experience and know you can be successful in. Lola. Little concise here, Lola. So here's my concern. Questions I'm trying to answer. You have two questions that are somewhat related. The problem that I have, and it's relayed in your photo ideas, is we need essential questions. So let's read your first question. What values or lessons have been passed down, and how do I carry them? So the first part of the question uh, is not really an essential question. So an essential question is profound. Uh, it is intangible. It can't necessarily be answered. It's something you're going to investigate. So if we read the first part of the question, what values or lessons have been passed down? We could do that. We could just write a list of the values and lessons. Done. Answered. Not really essential. The second part, however, how do I carry them? Well, we could write about that for sure. Do I think we could ever fully describe the uh, evolving way that you carry these? And I think your personal experience relates more to how you carry them. That's more of the essential part. So when we think about your photos and what we're actually investigating, it should be focused on how do I carry them. So if that's what we're focusing on, let's go back to your photo ideas. These photo ideas, they're a little generic. No, they're a lot generic actually. Um, they don't really say what the values are, and they don't certainly say how they're being carried by you individually. So I see how they relate to the topic, but I don't really think they investigate the question. That's something that I think a lot of people are going to have to reflect on. Let's move on. Ada, previous work, good. Um, you know, good. There's definitely a relationship between some of these. So, and you have some strong work that is also related. So let's see what you're thinking about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, so we're talking about change. I'd like to really see how this relates to your experience. I think we can make it work for sure. I think you've got the technical skill and compositional skill and experimentation down plenty well. I think we just need to refine how this relates to you and what exactly we're investigating as it relates to your experience. Silas? List of things. Poem. Questions. Narrowing down our idea. Passionate about. Yes. Okay. Self-identity. Frankly, everyone could do self-identity as their topic, and we'd all end up with different projects. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're doing self-identity, your images, your final images, um, should really be as specific to you as possible. Um, this one kind of stands out as a pretty generic image: a morning sunrise in the mountains, which I hope you're going to mountains sometime soon. A mix of shadows and highlights. That could literally be anyone in any situation describing anything. So these effects you're going for are good, but they need to have some sort of additional context that relates specifically to you. And yeah, these initial two images that I'm asking for, I know they're the first two images, and you've not gotten a lot of guidance as far as examples that I will be showing you and talking about the rubric. And, you know, we're not supposed to start off knowing everything. So I'm not super worried about these first two. Although the better we can get started, the better we'll finish. Sustained investigation. Being Indian, living in America, good, clear experience, differences, ethics, or effects and impacts. Lived in India for 2 years. Different places between. Your parents act different when we are in America. That's interesting. Not surprising necessarily, but interesting. So, this dual identity influences how I see the world and how I turned out. Um, I don't doubt for 1 second that it has. And maybe you explain more later in this, but I'd want you to elaborate. Okay, how did it influence? How did it change? How did it influence how you turned out? Reason two. Yeah, you've got these different perspectives, so just elaborate on what those are, which is not a simple thing to do, and it's not a quick or easy thing to do. I think you can include, the obvious visible differences between life in India and life in America, both like homes and community and I don't know, food. Like there's lots of like very tangible things that having never been to India, I could have guessed and assumed. But I'd really like to hear about the personal and emotional ways as well, because I don't think I could guess or assume all of those quite as easily. And it doesn't have to be just about you. Yeah, your parents are a significant part of your personal experience as well. You're in a really great spot. You've got so much context here to explore. Just actually explore it. Be as specific as possible. And don't be afraid if someone doesn't understand what you're trying to show simply by looking at your photos. That's in fact better. If it's just obvious and you can spell it out, like basically, if this is a photo that you think I could have come up with, it's not a good idea. I don't have this experience, so show your unique experience. That might mean I don't fully get your photo without reading the writing, just by looking at it, you know. I think I would get these, like, oh, you showed me these two photos. Oh, these are two different photos of two different foods from two different cultures. I would get that. But I think there's a lot of other things that you could do that are kind of more behind the scenes that I wouldn't have got. And reasons why I chose my topic. What is your topic? Oh, the current future effects of generative AI on my own life and the daily lives of others. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess I would call into question how much your life is currently impacted by generative AI. You know, I guess this is reason one, then we go to option two and option three. Are these all reasons or are they all options? Okay, and then like this last statement, whether it's for art, using for school, or making, or anything else, it's always in my day. It's in everyone's day. But that's not what you said. What you said is how it affects. And you also mentioned future. So I would argue that while it's in your day, you're probably not deeply impacted by it yet, although you will. And I think that's still an interesting topic to explore. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you need to do some genuine research, which doing the research is an experience on its own. So, yes, you can talk about how you're personally affected to whatever degree now, but you can also talk about your research and concerns looking to the future, and illustrate that. And I think playing around with making images that look AI generated but aren't. This brings me to another point that the College Board just released. Basically, if you use anything that's not exclusively made by you, um, obviously outside images and things like that, um, or certainly any AI generated things, it has to be declared. My general advice and basic policy is going to be don't. You know, so if you wanted to create an image like this, you'd have to find a power plant, a field, two people. You could Photoshop all those things together, or you could put two people in a field, Photoshop the power plant in the back. That would all be very doable, but you'd have to take those source images yourself. Content, add section title. Okay. Well, not a lot there. Running. Yep. Good. You should do that. You have experience with that. But we have to come up with that question still. Uh, um, One of the interesting things about cross country, I think, is that you can probably talk through most of the practice. Just while you guys are running, I imagine you guys talk and form those relationships and friendships, which I think is important because you might not realize this, Connor, but running sucks. It's hard, it's challenging, but it can be rewarding. And I think if you didn't have those friendships and relationships, I don't know why you would be doing it. This is lame. Pictures of running shoes, teammates maybe. Um, I don't think we really can legitimately come up with ideas until we have that question kind of formulated. Your series is not going to be about running. It's going to be probably about maybe all the other facets, or at least one or two specific facets related to running. Um, so I don't think you got into running because of the cool looking shoes, although there are some cool ones. what got you into running, what keeps you doing it. That's what we need to document in our pictures. So I really think before you dive too far into any images, you need to have some sort of direction of thing you're trying to explore. Drew? Andy? Whatever, both. My sustained investigation kickboxing, cool. 8 years, that's a while. Indeed. All right, so yeah, we don't have our sustained investigation necessarily yet. These photos will turn out cool, but they won't necessarily be answering an essential question. So why I do kickboxing? So this might actually lead us towards that question. Risky things that force you to perform. That sounds risky. I don't think I want to do kickboxing. I don't want to be kicked in the face. Um, why would anyone want that? Elaborate. Moments where you fight perfectly. Um, yeah, you're going to have to elaborate on these and formulate an actual question. Um, you know, having not done kickboxing, I'm not in a position to suggest a question, but I already did ask a question like, why would anyone want to do this? Um, if you elaborate on the value or reward you get from it, and that's what you're documenting in the photos, that that could be a good direction. Do I think these photos will turn out fine? Yes, but again, they're going to relate to your topic. They're not going to be answering the essential question. Um, Again, these are fairly solid images, but I'd want you to be able to connect them to, again, answering that question. Julie. Topic ideas. More topic ideas. It's good. Good. Talking about your experience and your dad's experience and your shared experience. Good. I don't necessarily see a question here, which is probably okay at this point, honestly. I think you have enough context and specific context between these last slides that you could just start exploring things, and we'll kind of tease out a question as we go along. Your photo ideas, I see how they relate to your topic, but they all three seem pretty generic. If you took this sort of idea and had some component that related to your experience incorporated into it, then I think you'd be okay. And I think you've got plenty of context between these slides to do that with. So that would be my suggestion for our starting point. Waterfalls. Yeah. While they aren't everywhere, there are several in Indiana that would provide good opportunities for photography. This is true. And they are interesting formations. What if I were to say that's just water and it's going slightly faster than it was before and then will slow down? Prove me wrong. Why are they interesting? What makes them interesting about you? What are you actually investigating here? I think you can prove me wrong. I think you can come up with an answer, but that's what we need to come up with. And that's what we need to do a purposeful action to document. So if you just want to, from a technical standpoint, this is hard enough. I would start doing some research about where the waterfalls are in Indiana. There are a number of them. some actually pretty impressive ones. And B, why waterfalls even exist. They really shouldn't exist, right? It doesn't make sense. They should have eroded that stone away so that it's just like a more gradual, but they haven't. So why do they happen? I think just looking into all those different aspects and then reflecting on why they're interesting to you, we need to get that kind of idea development before we go too far. But for the first week or two, just practicing taking pictures of waterfalls and finding them, as far as images, will be hard enough. Cool. So there's no question here. What goes through my mind when verbal instructions are given? Yeah, that looks about right. All right, so I think you've got a process pretty well refined. I think we just need to develop an idea and then relate it to your process and then move forward from there. Maybe narrowing as we go along or shifting and evolving in some way in our portfolio. This is probably more of a in-person conversation, but I would like you to reflect on what's the essential question I'm going to investigate here. Isaac. Sports photography, mainly soccer. So far ideas just says take pictures of soccer. Reasoning, passion for soccer. Okay. So okay. This isn't an essential question. This is just documenting people playing soccer. You've played it nearly your whole life. Why? What do you like about it? What has been your experience with it? That's what we need to document. You know, I would guess thousands or maybe even millions of people have played soccer. No, over the world, yes, millions of people are playing soccer now. Um, but what is your experience with it? What are you investigating? That's what the photos need to document. Is it the worst thing in the world if you start off just taking pictures of people playing soccer? No, but that's certainly not where we want to spend most of our time. Isabel. Topic of growth, change, childhood through photography. Okay, so everyone on the planet Earth has grown, changed, and had a childhood. So I would also say that most of those people had toys at one point. Certainly, they had clothing. So this is really a pretty universal experience stuff that you're documenting here. And your photo idea kind of continues that. I will point out that I do like that you're going from childhood to teenager. This particular image is like a child and an older person. You're not an older person. You don't know anything about being an older person. You don't really know anything about being an adult. So any of this transitional stuff that you're talking about, it should be what you do know about, which is going from, youth to near adulthood. Yeah, toys and cars, no, super generic. Clothes. All right. You have your own experience. Everyone's got their own experience growing up, both big and little things. Just focus on the things that stand out to you. If you were to reflect and write out 3 significant childhood memories of growing up, what would those 3 most significant things be? Write those out, document those. Again, it's fine if the viewer doesn't get the whole idea just by looking at the photos. They shouldn't. If they do, then it's a really obvious generic photo. You're going to have the opportunity to do some writing. But the design, experimentation, investigation of the idea, and how your experimentation and process relate to it, that's what's important, not simply documenting the topic. Okay, I'll try and wrap it up here. You should have your first 2 photos due. No, I'm sorry, today, technically. I'm not going to grade them today, so you do have today to work on them. If for whatever reason you don't have 2 photos ready and turned in, I probably won't get to grading them until the end of the weekend. So you could put some stuff together there, even if you just uploaded some of your all photos taken, which you do need at least 30, but that's 30 for the combined 2 images that you need to submit. The writing, we'll keep the writing the same as it has been so far, but we will ultimately be changing that after we talk about the rubric and other examples in a video next week.